at Witty Storytellers Online Toastmasters Club. We're an online club specialized in storytelling. Before we start, we would like to invite you to adopt a few club protocols for the benefit of everyone. You're encouraged to use your phone or earphones or headsets while you're speaking during the session. We need it for improved audio experience for the audience. So headsets are welcome. If you're not speaking, kindly mute your microphone. We would like to provide a noise-free environment for our speakers and listeners. We would like to see you during the session, and we encourage you to have your camera on. However, if you have to attend to personal or professional issues while you're on screen, you can disable your camera so we don't see the unnecessary movement, which can be distracting. Furthermore, we would like to inform you that this session is recorded, and the recording is used for educational purposes and partially for public relations purposes. So if you don't want to appear in the recording, kindly turn off your video. You can chat with individual members using the chat tool. To do so, click on the chat icon at the bottom of your Zoom window to open the chat window. However, please refrain from chatting while somebody is speaking. You can provide your feedback in the chat box after the speaker has finished his or her speech. You also have a view gallery button on the top right corner of your screen. This gives you an opportunity to see facial expressions of the whole club in attendance. Don't forget to silence your phone or other gadgets. Smile and show your active support for the listeners. Be active listeners. And now I will call upon our president, Julie, to open the meeting.
Welcome. Welcome all from so many countries and continents even. I am a Hungarian, French citizen, and live in London. And me and Svetlana have been in this club, and also then very fast, Michelle and others for the beginning 2.5 years ago. And we are so happy whenever a new member comes in. And I think we have many new members and potential new members also today here. Many of us are already on the new program, which is called Pathway Education System. And I am Pathway Ambassador for this club. And before we begin, I have a wonderful news to tell you. The 5th of February, and that is now sure, confirmed by letter from Toastmaster International, for which all the clubs belong, we will have a new pass. We have already 10, that will be one more. And that pass will be humor pass, which is very much in the line of our club, which is storytelling and humor. And I have even details which I will send you. If you put your email in the chat box, I will send you the information. Unhappily, for the moment, is only in English, which is okay for us because all of us know English. The other parts are in at least 10 different languages already. Of course, the humor will be also translated later. We have a wonderful program today, and today Toastmaster is our Vice President of Education, Svetlana, all the way from Uzbekistan. To you now, Svetlana.
Thank you, Julie. Indeed, we have a beautiful, very interesting agenda for today, and I will be helped by our timer, Michelle. I will now ask Michelle to explain and to demonstrate the timing devices and to explain how they will be used.
Thank you, Madame Toastmaster Svetlana. As Toastmasters, time management is very important. It is one of the skills that we learn, and hopefully we will demonstrate during this meeting. So to help everyone stay on track, I will show the green heart at the minimum time, which means for the icebreaker, that will be 4 minutes, and for the 2 other speeches, it will be 5. I will show the yellow heart at 5 minutes for the icebreaker and 6 minutes for the regular 5 to 7 minute speech, and the red heart at 6 minutes for the icebreaker and 7 minutes for the regular speeches. For table topics, which is supposed to be 1 to 2 minutes, green will come up at 1 minute, yellow will come up at 1.5 minutes, and red at 2 minutes. For evaluations, which are 2 to 3 minutes, green at 2, yellow at 2.5, and red at 3. Back to you, Madame Toastmaster.
Thank you, Michelle. I like to say that every Toastmaster meeting gives us some discoveries. We discover something new about ourselves or the audience. And today's meeting theme is childhood stories, which affected you most. One of the friends told me, why didn't you write childhood stories which impacted you most? And I said, it's the author who created this theme. He meant or she meant something about it, because impacted is more positive, isn't it? And affected can be both positive or negative. And today we will learn something about our audience, our fellow Toastmasters, which stories, which fairy tales or real stories that happened to them left impression throughout their lives, on the rest of their lives. And I think one of the best ways to express that is by introducing yourself to the club. And the first speech that we're going to listen to today is from Dawn, our new Dawn McKenzie, our new member, all the way from Oregon. And the evaluator of Dawn's speech is Michelle. Michelle, would you like to introduce Dawn's speech? I'm tempted to say tiger because it's written tiger there. Michelle, would you like to introduce Dawn's speech?
Actually, it is an icebreaker, but it is not obviously the icebreaker of a newbie. Dawn has earned the Advanced Communicator Silver Award, and he is now working on his Advanced Communicator Gold. And his icebreaker is titled The Life and Times of Tiger. Let's welcome Dawn.
Yes, with a speech entitled The Life and Times of Tiger. Let's welcome Dawn.
Dawn, you're still muted.
There we go. Am I on now? Excellent. My name is Tiger. I was the first baby born in a brand new hospital in the small town of St. Helens, Oregon. I was delivered just seconds before Susie. It was an omen, as I was a born competitor. As a toddler, I was extremely active, and at about age 2, my father made the comment boy, that kid is a real tiger. And the name stuck. I grew up in suburban America. I was living right outside Boston when JFK was shot. It was the only time that I saw my father cry uncontrollably. I spent most of my childhood in Portland, Oregon. My father traveled a lot. My mom had very simple rules. Be home for lunch, be home for dinner, and be home before dark. My older brother and I had a wonderful childhood, and of course, we never got in any trouble. I did well enough in school to keep my parents happy, but my real passion was playing sports, and I competed in just about everything. The highlight of my high school career was on a Saturday afternoon at the stadium, and starting at running back, number 37, Tiger McAndy. I went to college for two reasons. One was to avoid the draft, and the other was to avoid going to work. I bounced around from major to major, and after 6 years, I got a degree in forestry and went into the woods, which is something I had done to pay my way through college. I got hurt after about 8 years. I went back to school and got a degree in education and became a biology teacher in a small school in Washington. I started up a fish and wildlife program, and I also started up a soccer program, football for many of you around the world. Just over the vacation, Christmas holiday, a former student called me and said, "Mr. McAndy, you were my favorite teacher." While I was sitting there beaming with pride, waiting for her explanation, she said, "You let me keep my pet rat in your biology room." She and I had a great conversation. In the 15th year of my coaching career, I removed a player from my team for disciplinary reasons. His mom just happened to be the head of the school board. So my next career was that of a hearing specialist. I am deaf, or nearly deaf, or deaf, as the old timers here in Oregon like to say. A patient conversation may go something like this. "Fred, I think I can help you." "Huh?" "Fred, I think I can help you hear better." "Huh?" "Fred, I think I can help you have sex with your wife again." "Oh." During this time, I was living the American dream. I had a beautiful wife, a nice home, 2 adorable adopted twin sons, and a nice career. Unfortunately, that chapter of my life ended. I am now working on a new chapter. I'm 62 years old. I'm living with my parents and trying to keep them in their dream home on a golf course. I spend my afternoons delivering the local paper out in the countryside. My route follows one of the most beautiful rivers in the world, the Umpqua River. And during my tour, I passed 12 different wineries. Now, if I can just get Michelle to be a designated driver one day, I could really have a good day at work out there. I joined Toastmasters in 2013, and I was a member until 2016. As Michelle mentioned earlier, I have my accomplished silver, and I have a leadership bronze. I am going to get my DTM hopefully within the next 18 months. That is the goal. I am so glad to be back. Toastmasters has always been a very positive experience for me. I like to talk in front of people, and I am looking so forward to laughing and learning with all of you. I will return the meeting back to the Toastmaster.
we might call you Tiger from now on, if you don't mind. And thank you for your icebreaker. That was a great introduction. A lot about you, not only as a person, but also as a Toastmaster. And we hope Witty Storytellers will support you in achieving your Toastmaster goals. Our next speaker is Federico. And Federico's evaluator today is Graham. Graham, would you like to introduce Federico's speech?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Federico today is going to be speaking from the Entertaining Speaker Manual. Now, this is one of the traditional program manuals, and I have to say is one of the more challenging of those speeches, because Federico is asked to not only adapt his own personal humorous material, but also to then use material from outside sources to assist that, and then to deliver a speech making the humour effective. So for a period of 5 to 7 minutes, his speech is entitled The Podium, Madam Toastmaster.
Very good. And with this speech titled The Podium, let's put our hands together for Federico.
After I had this vision of a great multitude, which no one could count. That was me when I was in 3rd grade of school. I was slaughtering in front of all my colleagues in the school. Imagine yourself how to make this huge show in the church in front of 400 kids, trying to read something from the Bible, and no one was able to understand you. People were started to laugh at me about how terrible I was reading in Spanish. Really, it's something crazy, because for the people, they cannot understand if I read thousands of books every day. How is it possible that I couldn't read something so simple in front of people? For most of people, this will traumatize them, and they will not perform any speech around all their life, and they will escape for the audiences. Because then the priest came and told me and said, Rico, we need to talk. You will never read again in the church. You are a terrible reader. You are the worst who has come here. Come on, imagine yourself and doing this in front of this huge show. Imagine yourself when you're a small kid like this, and a tall man like that, who instead of trying to inspire you to do something different, he tells you that you should never come back to the church. But I am a rebellious being, and I didn't care about that. I continuously doing those crazy stuff, going there and try again, taking again the Bible and try to read something else. As you can imagine, the same guy came again and said me, I shall not come back to the church to try to read. Why? Because I'm a terrible reader. But think, life can be complicated in these things, but you should take it in a reverse, like I heard someone from yesterday. What I learned is that if someone tells you, don't do this, just do it until it goes well. From my side, I started to read more often. And after that, not only I became the strange reader from my group in the school, I started to do other things, like to join to the priest in the church and to help him. Despite I'm not really religious, I just try to be not his good friend and try to push him that I am not as bad as he thinks. Try to do these things in your life. Be rebellious and try to take these strange books. You know, you will start slaughtering a lot of things in your life, and you will need to constantly try this, try that, go there, go to those strange situations. I know that this is not an easy thing, and you will constantly be messed as I did, because then after I failed in this one of that, then I had a crazier experience. As similar to the tiger, I was a kind of competitive guy, and I love to race in the streets. The second experience was, as I said, it's connected to the podium too. It was when I was riding a bike with my neighbors to win a, let's say, a kind of small gift like this one, and we were competing for the best one. I was a racer and trying to win the first place when I smashed in a car and I flew over the car, and thankfully I am here and I can speak in front of you. Instead of trying that the experience and I think, hey lady, you don't know how to drive, you're a terrible driver. I survived the heat and I went to speak with her and I tell her that I would like that she teach me how to drive a car. This was a better experience. Instead of trying to fight and say, hey man, you are a terrible driver, I learned from that lady how to drive in a better way. This was a different experience. And as I said, I'm constantly going to those things of trying to go to the podiums. Another experience was connected when I started to perform speeches in public, which my teachers were not so nice. It was a similar experience. In the beginning, I didn't know how to perform speeches, and it was not in Toastmasters. In fact, it was connected to a different organization called bankers. Imagine yourself trying to sell a product. Take this thing in front of you, a paper, and try to get money. The bankers just looked at me and said, we're not going to give you anything. You don't even know how to sell anything. You're a terrible seller. How can you try to approach us and ask me for money when you don't even know what you're selling? And it's even worse, man. You're taking a paper. You're reading from a paper what you're selling. It doesn't mean that you're don't even believe in what you're doing. And I was doing this for 4 years to try to learn and do what I'm doing now in front of you. That's how I learned about that the podiums is not so bad. That the podiums will give you experience, knowledge, and most importantly, try yourself. That even if you're slaughtering many times like I did, don't take it so personal. Take it in a different way and do the things in the opposite side. You will see that life is more interesting when you challenge yourself and compete, because the podium is for you, not only for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Federico. The next speech is entitled Down Memory Lane. And the speaker is Asil Bojanova. And Asil's evaluator is Julie. Julie, would you like to introduce Asil's speech to us today? No. Then I will do it myself. Let me see very quickly. Down Memory Lane is a speech project from Motivational Strategies number 14 project using descriptive language. Present a speech describing any topic in detail. The length of the speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Dear Witty Storytellers, members and guests, let's put our hands together to Asil with a speech entitled Down Memory Lane. Asil.
The rhythmic sound that the train made was making me sleepy. But before I fell asleep, I thought happily, I'm going to see them. I was visiting one of my cousins and his wife in the winter break of my last year of university. They lived in Pavlodar, in northeastern Kazakhstan. In the morning, the short train conductor woke me up with his raspy voice. It was cold outside. You could see the breath coming from people standing on the platform. My cousin and his wife were waving their hands and running to me. And I immediately thought of a scene from those old Bollywood movies because of how we are running each other. The gray platform would change, become brighter with lots of colors, yellow, red, white, green, and blue. And we would start singing and dance with everyone in celebration. I giggled at my imaginary scene and ran to them. In the car, I curiously looked at the city through the car window. It was white and beautiful. Everything was covered in a sheen of snow, and sunbeams were jumping around, leaving behind a gold print. My cousin was sharing the plans for the next 2 days, and this sounded exciting. I was looking forward to going to the icy town and sliding down a hill. The town was like a fairy tale. There were statues, icy statues from different tales, statues of different animals. And I was running between them, touching them, and exclaiming in amazement. Then I saw a girl. She was sculpting a swan from the block of ice. She said that she used to watch her dad make sculptures, and she learned from him. But last year, her dad passed away, and in honor of him, she decided to continue making sculptures and enchanting people. Then we spent 2 joyful days playing with snowballs, making snowmen, and sliding down a hill. Do you know how it feels? You lay down on a sled, push yourself off, and you're flying whee, with the wind whipping around. My cousin doesn't live in that city anymore. But whenever I go down memory lane, I think about those days fondly. I can see the timer. Is it time? No?
You're fine. Only 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Back to you. Okay. Okay. It's just you're frozen. I don't understand that. I didn't get that you are still listening to me. Okay. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
The green light just turned on now. You still have 2 more minutes if you want to go on.
Please continue if you can. So please continue if you can, because I need to do 1 more injection. I'm being visited by a doctor.
In that case, if we wish to do something else for the moment, if you're not, if you finished, Asil, I'm happy to give my evaluation now, if that would fill in a couple of minutes.
Graham, I'm sorry. We could move on to table topics.
Yep, that's fine. Yes, unfortunately, Svetlana's not going to be able to continue for a moment by the sound of that. So if we move on to table topics, who is our topics master for today?
I am the table topic master.
Oh, I thought I was.
Who?
Oh, hello, Carol. We didn't see you there.
Who, Carol? You are ready to be table topic master?
Yes, I certainly am, Julie. I don't want to take it away from you, but I put my name down for the job.
You are not here. Go for it.
That's a very common saying here in Australia. Go for it.
Carol, just to tell you that we have Nadia who didn't speak, Aizada who will become soon a member who has not yet been Toastmaster, Nadia who is with us, member, Rainy who is a guest, and Graham.
Thank you very much.
Akira.
Thank you very much, Julie. I already have my list of victims for the fairy tales in Table Topics today. I want to take you all back to your childhood and to remember some of those scary and sometimes funny fairy tales. And I have some pictures to share with you to help set the mood. But first, let me ask you all to think about what was your favourite fairy tale. I went to the internet, as you do, and looked up the 8 most favourite fairy tales of all, and I've brought some of the pictures from there to share with you today, and I have some specific questions, and I'm going to begin with Nadia. Nadia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. I'm going to quickly share my screen with you. And your question today is, which fairy tale had the most impact on you? And here's a couple that you might want to think about. Would it be Cinderella and her golden slipper, or Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs? So which fairy tale had the most impact on you?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Neither one of these really resonated with me as a child, but seeing your background that you chose for your PowerPoint presentation, it reminded me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And during his show, even though he was a real person and he would go around the neighborhood and tell us how things were made and things like that, but within that show, he would take us to this fairy tale world where you had this weird looking woman. I don't know if she was supposed to be a witch or something. And she was in a train, and there would be this kind of alternate world on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it was always kind of a fun part of the show because you didn't know when that part would come up. And it was just kind of this world within a world that maybe every couple episodes or so, he would take a trip to this, you know, this weird land. And it wouldn't really be him. You would just kind of see the puppets doing their thing in another world. And so that was kind of one of my treats as a child, along with Fraggle Rock. I don't know if anybody knows either one of these shows because they were, I think, more of a U.S. custom than probably around the world. But those were the shows that I watched as a kid, and they were always really fun and always a learning activity along with just an entertainment value. And I always wondered what it would be like to be in that alternate world in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood with the puppets and the train rides throughout the town. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Nadia. You certainly did have a story to tell for us today. And when I think about these 2 fairy tales, Cinderella and Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, they are both in alternate worlds, as you say. And there's a lot of magic that happens, and there's always a wicked stepmother. Did you realize how often the wicked stepmother comes into the fairy tales? But let's move on now. I'm going to ask Graham if he's ready to step back into his childhood and to answer this question. See if you can come up with an alternate ending for your favourite fairy tale, and you might take a clue from either of these. An alternate ending for either Hansel and Gretel or Red Riding Hood. Graham.
Madam Topics Master, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you the Red Riding Hood story is really, really interesting, because while for a child the Red Riding Hood story is about, you know, a girl and a wolf and being rescued and the grandmother and all that stuff, in fact it's about sex. It's all about sex. It's about young girls moving out into the world and beginning to show to strut their stuff, wearing the bright scarlet cape. And the wolf is, of course, the men who are trying to encourage the young girl to hand over their goodies, as it were. Now, the thing that actually gets me about the Red Riding Hood story is that the wolf has his wicked way, well, at least attempts to, but it's only when they are rescued by another man who comes in and chops up the wolf so that the grandmother can escape, although that's only in one version of the story. In the other one, she's dead, because when you get eaten by a wolf, you're eaten by a wolf, and you're eaten by a wolf, and that's it. But if I were to end the story differently, I would want Red Riding Hood herself to be the protagonist, the hero of her own story, for her to defeat the wolf and say, I know what you want, sunshine. You're not getting it, or if you are going to get it, you're not getting it today. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Graham. You're quite correct. There are some really, shall we say, sleazy sides to the fairy tales of old. And if you see alternate stories, there is often a lot of sex involved, as you rightly said about this particular story. And in those two stories, there was the wicked wolf. And in the other story, there was the wicked witch. What is this with these wicked people? Let's move on and let's choose our third victim for today. And I'm hoping that Izada, are you there? Would you like to have a go at a fairy tale?
So
hello?
next time.
Not today?
Sure. I'm not
right.
sure I got everything. So.
That's all right. Please watch and listen, and you will have a go next time.
Okay.
How about Yasmin? Are you ready to talk about a fairy tale?
Happily.
Oh, thank you so much. I have a little prompt here for you. I'm quickly going to share my screen once more with you. And I realize that for some, the sharing of screen is not optimal for you. So I will put them away again. So let's move on. Oh, something strange has gone wrong with these slides. But the question for you, Yasmin, is what is the moral or lesson from your favourite fairy tale? And you might want to talk about these two that are favourites of mine, Jack and the Beanstalk or Sleeping Beauty. Yasmin, what is the moral or lesson from your favourite fairy story?
Thank you, Carol, for actually sort of bringing up two new stories to me. I have not been familiar with these one, but definitely I would read about this. But the Sleeping Beauty does remind me of something. I would like to share the experience of how humans see and like to sort of imagine everything in the rocks, in the mountains, in the clouds. So I would like to share about the sleeping Buddha. For us, that's the sleeping Beauty. So if you go to Himalaya, it's very common that people tend to see in the beauty in the mountains, and they have they observe. There is a trend that they observe over generation how mountains develop and how these get carved into. So we have sleeping Buddha, and these Buddhas were sometimes natural mountain formations, and then people got inspired from them and they even carved it beautifully in monolithic designs. So simple stone, like a single stone being carved into beautiful Buddha design, sleeping Buddha. So indeed for me, that's the sleeping beauty. Back to you, Carol.
Thank you, Yasmin. That was a wonderful twist on the tale about the beauty that appears in the story Sleeping Beauty. I will now like to read about the Sleeping Buddha. Mrs. Timer, do I have time for one more?
Sorry, yeah, one quick one, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Akira, are you still here with us? Would you like to talk about a fairy tale from Japan? Hello, Akira. Do you have a favorite fairy tale? Well, this is going to be the quickest one, I think, Michelle. It's not happening. All right, let me come back then to someone else who has not spoken and choose Rainey. Would you like to tell us about a favorite fairy story from your childhood?
Yeah, sure.
Please go ahead. Thank you, Rainey.
So I don't have any slide.
Oh, you'd like slides? Okay, let me give them to you. I was reluctant, but I do have a couple more for you just to tweak. And the two here are Rapunzel with the long hair or Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, choose another if you prefer.
I have never read the first one, Rapunzel, but I have watched the movie of The Beauty and the Beast, and I love it very much. And all of my childhood, I really loved to watch those fairy tales about prince and princess, because I would dream that one day I would become a kind of prince, because I met someone that I really love and he cherishes me very much. However, when I was a little girl, my father didn't allow me to watch a lot of fairy tale or animation because he had to watch TV. We only have one television in our room, and he usually possesses the one. So I had to go to my neighbor's home and watch the fairy tale with them. And I remember the day when it was my 6th birthday, and that night my father allowed me to watch a whole night fairy tale, and it's all about the prince and princess, and I love it very much. And in the back to the fairy tale, The Beauty and the Beast, I really love that love story, because even though the Beast is ugly in the very beginning, but the beauty, the princess finally found her love with the Beast, and they finally get together and live happily ever after. And I really hope that one day I could find my Prince Charming. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Isn't it amazing how all the fairy tales seem to end in they all lived happily ever after? Thank you everyone for contributing your ideas about fairy tales today and taking us back to your childhood. Is Svetlana back with us now? Otherwise I'll hand back to Graham.
Yes.
I'm back. Thank you. Yes, we were indeed entertained a lot with table topics, and we heard a lot of not only fairy tales and reactions, but also some glimpses of our guests and members' childhood. We have some very eloquent guests today, and I hope they will become our members one day, very soon. Now we want to hear from Michelle, the timer, how we did on timing with table topics.
Yes, Madame Toastmaster. Nadia spoke for 1 minute and 40 seconds, Graham for 1 minute and 37, Yasmin, a minute and 14. Akira, unfortunately, did not come to the screen. And Rainey spoke for a minute and 37. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster. Or Table
Very
Topics Master.
impressive. Very impressive. Thank you so much, Michelle. We did well on timing, too. Not just impressive little stories. And now is time for evaluation, if you don't mind. And the first evaluator to speak today is Michelle. Michelle, will you be able to time yourself as usual?
Of course.
Of course. Thank you so much. Michelle, evaluating the speech made, icebreaker made by Tiger.
Thank you, Svetlana. And thank you, Tiger, for giving me an opportunity to hear 3 versions of that same speech. I am fortunate because I heard it first in, I think it was Oregon Communicators, and then I believe it was Feather Tongues. And anyway, I believe this is the 3rd time that I've heard this speech. And the beauty of it is improving as it goes. But Don knows he's a tiger, he's competitive. So he knows that I'm raising the bar higher for him than your average icebreaker. The things that I love about this speech are the enthusiasm, the energy. You could almost feel him running from the starting point and running off when his name was being called. And I loved how, Don, you narrated how this name came about, how your father commented about Tiger, and it carried. I loved your vocal variety. Male voices usually have perhaps a narrower range than many female speakers I've heard, but you did not do that. You had a wide vocal variety, so I love that. Now, in the icebreaker form for pathways, there's a question, what areas would I suggest that you work on? And so in true Toastmasters fashion, I would like to offer a couple of suggestions. First is the transitions. Your transitions are much better now than the first time I heard this speech. Still, there are areas where it's a little bit abrupt. You do have more pauses now. The pauses are a little bit longer. I think maybe just 1 or 2 phrases of transitioning would help. For example, when you said, and then I got hurt, and then you went right into talking about going into biology or botany or something. Maybe for some people like me initially, I couldn't connect, you got hurt and then you went to college. So maybe I got hurt, I could no longer play, or I could no longer be in the athletics team. So, so those transitions might help. And the second point, which is coming, is that little center point where you're supposed to stare at or look at. You were doing that the other time, but then now you were looking at us again. So your eyes were somewhere here, like my eyes are now. So try and remember that that point is what gives eye contact for us, your audience, your online audience. But I can see, Dawn, the enthusiasm. I am so excited because I know you'll be working on the humorous manual coming up for your Advanced Communicator Gold. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm sure the rest of the members and guests are doing that as well. So great job. And back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next evaluator is Graham. And Graham is going to evaluate Federico's speech, the podium. Let's applaud to Graham.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Ladies and gentlemen, particularly Federico, can I say, and I guess it's no great surprise given that this is Witty Storytellers, that the personal stories that Federico told today, I thought were the highlight of this presentation. Those stories grabbed our attention and made us feel not only for Federico, but importantly for an entertaining speech, it made us feel with him. The way that he turned those stories of disappointment into a message that the podium is not just for him, but that the podium is for all of us, I thought was a highlight of the speech. But there are a couple of observations that I think you need to hear, Federico, and one is the first two speeches in the entertaining manual are all about you telling personal stories and keeping us entertained. The third of these speeches, though, specifically asks you to use jokes and to use external input into your presentation. And whilst this was an entertaining speech, I'm not entirely sure that it met the objectives of this particular assessment. One of the advantages to actually telling jokes in a speech, as opposed to a humorous speech, one of the advantages to actually telling jokes is that it makes us laugh and it gives us permission to laugh along with you. And I noticed that while there was a lot of smiling going on by the audience during this presentation, there didn't appear to be a great deal of laughter. And that's because we weren't given the permission to laugh up front of the story, of the speech. What I would suggest next time you're doing this speech or something like it is to try to put something that will actually make us belly laugh up front. Use a joke from somebody else and then point that into your story. And that gives us permission to laugh. And once the dam is broken, then we will continue to laugh with you. But having said that, I have to say that the vocal characterizations of this speech were brilliant. When you were talking about the banker saying, no, you're reading terrible, all that, when you were talking as the bankers, I was genuinely amused by that. And also, the looking up at the priest. Yeah, here's a man who's supposed to be telling me encouragement, but no, he's not. That was particularly well done. So, really good personal stories and a really good way of telling those personal stories and turning that into a message that the podium is for all of us. I would suggest that you might like to try including some actual jokes into the speech to get us laughing up front, but keep working on things like that vocal characterization. That's a winner for you. And I enjoyed the presentation. I just think it could be a little better if you tried those couple of suggestions. Madam Toastmaster, I yield control.
Thank you, Graham. Indeed, Graham reminded us that the evaluator's speech is a speech in its own right as well. So you entertained us, and with that background of yours, which is the warm Australian winter summer, that was amazing, thank you. And I'm sure Federico also got some really good feedback and advice with the speech. Our next evaluator is our very own Julie. Julie, are you ready to evaluate Asil's speech down the memory lane?
Yes.
Just to remind the audience, that is motivational strategist number 14.
I am ready.
Yes.
I don't see Asil. I hope she is still here.
Using descriptive language.
Yes, I know. I figured that.
I'm reminding the audience, Julie.
So, Asil is already on level 3 of her path, and using descriptive language is not an easy project. I did it and I felt I failed. I didn't have enough descriptive, but it is a wonderful project. And Asil did it in a really good way, and she really used description which took us in different places, sliding on the mountain and other things. Now, another thing I liked very much from her speech was she had great hand gestures. And she used her hand gesture just when it was needed and how it was needed. So that was great. And also, she had a great vocal variety. At some time, I even believed she's doing the vocal variety project because she used high volume and slow, and then different volumes anyway, which was very good. What I would have liked to do differently is in the beginning. She spoke about someone's rusty voice, but she told it in her own voice. She didn't try, oh, you know, you can change your voice and that makes people laugh. And she would have made us laugh if she used that rusty voice instead of telling about the rusty voice. Even if the description made us imagine it. Some things are best imagined doing than telling about it. And taking into a moment, she did take us many times in the moment. But sometimes I felt it would have been better if instead of describing, she described how she felt, and she did. A few times I felt there with her, exactly. In the conclusion, Asil did wonderfully the job that the project gave her.
Thank you, Julie. With this, we've finished our evaluations today. And again, let's listen to our timer, Michelle, how we did on the timing with evaluation.
Thank you. For evaluations, the first evaluator was looking at the clock at the same time. Michelle evaluated first 3 minutes and 18 seconds. The second evaluation, that was Graham, was 3 minutes and 7 seconds. And Julie's was, I think, initially she ended at 3 minutes and 5 seconds, but because there was no handover, I didn't stop the time. And then I finally stopped it at 3 minutes and 11 seconds when we guessed that she was done. So that's it for the evaluators. And my time for the evaluators is 38 seconds. Back to you, Svetlana.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Really, my impression is that our today's meeting was going very smoothly and with all these beautiful humor and laughter and a lot of education as well. But let's listen from all of us how we did on today's meeting. We call it round robin evaluation because I see my name as the general evaluator, and we were guessing who will perform which role. And I think the best option for today is round robin evaluation. And this gives us an opportunity to listen to our guest feedback as well as our own discussion, how we can improve and what we did well. Let's start with Yasmin. Can you give us your feedback of today's meeting, and will you come back?
Well, I'm humbled to be asked to give the evaluator for such an expert group. I really felt that all the speakers here are very advanced, and there is so much to learn rather than to give a feedback. But I would say that I particularly enjoyed the topic section, the way it was presented, because indeed for me it was pictures, like they say, like explain more, like it's worth 1,000 words. So it was very, very beautiful. And the icebreakers were no way icebreakers. I felt as if they were already the way the Essel's speech or the speech of the tiger, there was so much to learn and everyone was very engaged. And another thing I noticed was the present video visuals, which generally is very important because when I tend to speak online, I sometimes feel something similar as Essel did. I just feel that it's just me speaking because things are, we don't, this is a difference when we are physically speaking, then we tend to see the reaction, but here we have to learn between the speaker view, the gallery view. But I think everyone was so comfortable in front of the camera, so I would say very well done, and indeed worth mentioning that you are all very warm and very welcoming to your guests. So I look forward to attend more of the meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yasmin. Indeed, it is so important for the online Toastmasters Club to recreate the Toastmaster Club meeting atmosphere. And, you know, as an online Toastmaster, I think we're doing that. And the added value is the recording that, for example, today, as you can see, Asil's internet wasn't cooperating, but she can watch it in the record. Wonderful. Now, let's listen to Rainy's feedback. Such an eloquent speaker, Rainy. You delighted us with your childhood stories. What do you make of today's meeting, and will you come back? Give us your feedback.
Actually, I am new at Toastmasters, so I don't think I am qualified to give any feedback. But from my perspective, I think today's meeting is really wonderful, and I have learned a lot from all of you. I think all of you are really brilliant speakers, and I love your stories, like Tiger, your story is really inspiring, and I loved your story, and I love your way of delivering your speech. And I don't think you are an icebreaker either. So I think for me, there's a lot of things that I can learn from all of you. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Rainy. Thank you so much. Let's listen to Dawn. I think one of the, sometimes funny things and very, very spontaneous things about global Toastmaster online clubs, that you can be called by the name of your country or by the name of your state. And when Rainy said Oregon, when she looked at you, I thought that was so cute. So, Dawn, today is your first, icebreaker delivery day, and give us your feedback of today's meeting. Can't hear you. Yes.
Still muted, not me yet.
Good.
I didn't catch that, Svetlana.
You didn't catch what I said?
I didn't hear the very end. Did you just want a response from me?
Yes, we want to hear your feedback of today's meeting.
Oh, the meeting. Yeah, no, I enjoy you guys very much. I am very impressed with the speeches. The topics were fantastic. I thought, especially Rainy and Yasmin. Is that how you pronounce that? Sorry. Yeah, I enjoyed that very much. I thought the topics were very creative, and I had a wonderful time. I was really nervous before I gave my speech, but once I got going, I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dawn, for reminding that you were nervous, because in a brick and mortar club, we would give you a ribbon, a special ribbon for an icebreaker speech. So here is the imaginary ribbon for you. We're celebrating you and your speech and your icebreaker. Also, thank you for reminding that we need to say big thank you to Carol, our table topics master, for her brilliant topics. Every topic that I heard, Carol, I felt like talking as well. Thank you so much.
Sorry, that's my phone.
Aizada, give us your feedback. What did you think of today's meeting? We saw a lot of smiles on your face, and your presence was absolutely delightful. What do you have to say? Yes. Did you like today's meeting? How did you like it? Will you come back?
Sveta, I'm sorry. Are you speaking to me?
Yes, I'm speaking to you. Give
Okay,
us
I
your
missed it.
feedback of this.
I absolutely enjoyed this meeting, and I'm so happy because this is a chance for me to get adapted to various accents. Yeah, so from the USA to Australia, and it's not often that I could hear Australians speaking, so it was a good chance. And I will definitely come to the next meeting, I hope. And thank you to all.
Yes, Azada, indeed. In English, we unite in our English-speaking global Toastmasters Club. Well, who hasn't spoken? I think Julie, you're smiling, and I think you liked today's meeting. Tell us, give us your feedback as a member, as the president.
I am very happy for all of your presence from all over the globe. And I was prepared also to tell my own childhood tale, but next time I will tell it. I will just have to tell you that we have a change now in Toastmaster education program, which some know, some don't know yet. And I read about change, and the change, it seems, you like it or you don't like change depending of your first childhood experience of change. So yeah, I will tell you that because I had to go from 1 hour to other away from my place I lived, away from the city I lived, and hide for a whole year so the Nazis don't kill us. I know that change for us was good because I am still here. And those who didn't change remained, and some were alas killed. So for me, it was easy to think as change something I have to do fast. And that is why I went so fast in pathway. And I am very happy we had new guests. And I hope all of our guests, or most of them, will soon become our members and give their icebreakers. Now, I have to tell, I really, really enjoyed Tiger Icebreaker. And for me and for our club, Icebreaker is not the first speech you ever give. Because most of us are already experienced Toastmaster, or at least were 2.5 years ago when we begin. And we still gave icebreaker. Not to speak the first time in our life, in audience or online, but to make know each other. Because through telling our personal stories, which we call icebreaker, we know each other a lot better. And Tiger, in my opinion, you can count this speech not an icebreaker from CC or from pathway, whatever you want, you can do it also, but you can count it also as one speech from humorous or entertaining speech or whatever you choose, because it was great speech, even if it was shorter, because it was titled Icebreaker. That is what we did. And we are very happy to begin to know you better. And I think through the weeks that come, through the months they come, we will know each other better and better. We are diverse, and our diversity is our cultural diversity, not only the place, makes us stronger and more interesting.
Thank you, Julie. I would like to, thank you, Julie, also for reminding how important it is to reinvent ourselves as Toastmasters with the help of pathways And we are truly in a very interesting period of our times when we do both. We are finishing the legacy program and we are doing the pathways. So it's quite challenging, but it's also very delightful to discover new facets of ourselves as we reinvent ourselves as speakers. Carol, did you enjoy today's meeting as much as we enjoyed the table topic?
Indeed, I did. Thank you, Svetlana. I wanted to tell you how extraordinary it was to come back to a club meeting after my summer break and to be among friends. This was a very important step for me. And I recently had to practice my public speaking at a funeral and a wake. And I once again thank my experiences with Toastmasters and with storytelling so that I could tell the story of my brother who passed away. And for me, that was a big event. So that was just last weekend. So I'm very glad to come back here today to be amongst friends and to share something light-hearted. Thank you all.
Carol, thank you so much for sharing that personal event. Although, you know, it was quite sad, as you said, so our belated condolences on that. But at the same time, as you mentioned, it is an opportunity to speak, to celebrate, to pay tribute. In one of my American clubs, the brick and mortar club with online attendance, we actually give like 30 seconds to 1 minute for people to say if they made any speeches outside of Toastmasters. And they just raise their hand and they say, oh, I spoke at such and such public, you know, occasion. And I think it's a little bit like, you know, a tiny little success story or a glimpse of something. Oh, we are giving back to the community. Oh, we are actually using our Toastmaster skills outside.
Yes, that's absolutely correct, Svetlana. The second occasion that I spoke was in front of maybe 100 people, and it was more like a wake. We were remembering the good times, and it was at a place called the Men's Shed. And some of the Australians will know it. It's a place where the men get together and they swap stories, standing side by side at the workbench. So we had the farewell for my brother at the Men's Shed in his local town. And people came from far and wide. And it was a great way to practice what I could do with the stories that I could tell about his life. Yeah, Men's Shed, only men.
That's an amazing tradition. You know, in Uzbekistan, we have Men's Shed, but it's about cooking plov. Only men get together, no women, and they cook plov, and then they eat it. So, you know, speaking about traditions all over, you know, from other countries, from all over the globe, it's really, really an added value in this club. Julie, would you like to close today's meeting as the president?
Thank you, Svetlana, for jumping in, being our Toastmaster and going through the meeting very smoothly, very nicely. And Michelle, for her beautiful timing devices and attention, and Graham and Carol and everyone who participated. I always love when we have a new member joining us, and I think Tiger joined us and we welcome him with the beautiful, unforgettable tale and hoping the best. And just tell us what you need so we can help you to become DTM as you want. We always can add a new speech, even if we already have 3 We are very flexible. What is very important in this club, and not everyone likes it always, we have no one meeting here which is exactly than the other. Every meeting is different. We have sometimes a lot of stories. We don't give speech. So just don't forget, in our club, we don't give speech, we tell stories. Of course, telling stories is also giving a speech. And we try to incorporate sometimes humor, sometimes tell sad stories. It doesn't matter. It has to be something related at least to personal. For example, Graham told a story sometime, not a long time ago, about Mentor and Odyssey. But he related it to his own life and experience. So whenever we can, and we want to take something from far away, even if we take red, how it is called, the red scarf and the wolf, we relate it to our experience. I told the story of my great-grandmother, almost like that story one time, and other time I will give it again. I am very happy you were here with us, and I think I will stop the recording, and then we can chat. Continue to chat off recording, everyone, and come back the second week of February, when we will have the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much.